Oh,
Oh, there you go.
that is the other way. Perfect. Hi.
Hey, Gabby, what's going on?
Everything is great. Thank you. Thank you for
Wonderful.
having me. It's
Yeah.
awesome to be here to talk about period poverty and menstrual equity. So
Yes.
I am
And
hyped.
you are the master teacher here. We're all here to learn. I just got some questions for you. And then
Okay,
after the questions, and maybe even in between, just give us your take on it, and we'll go from there.
absolutely. I'm ready when you are.
Okay, first, what is period poverty? Like, just give
Okay.
it to me straight.
So period poverty is sort of a bit of an umbrella term. It's for the inequities related to
Hmm.
menstruation. So, for example, when someone of low income has difficulty in being able to purchase menstrual products or
Come on, Instagram. Hello, official kings. Hmm. Might have to restart. Hmm.
so I
Can
have no idea what occurred, but this is take
Oh
two.
wait, mine is still like frozen. Can you see me?
I can see you.
Yours is still frozen for me. Wait.
I'm frozen.
Yes.
It was fine, and then it just disappeared.
Wait, I want to see if I invite you again, what happens? I don't think I can. Your name disappeared.
Technical difficulties, guys. Technical difficulties.
Oh wait, it's loading. It looks like it's gonna have you working. Can you still hear me? Why are you playing with this Instagram? See, it's not frozen on my side. Hmm. Okay. Let's see. Unable to join. Okay, let's give it a second. Maybe she's just restarting hers. Yeah, Jay, you can still hear me, right? Denise, you can hear me? Be small. London Lux, what's going on? View request. Okay, you're back.
Are we
Great.
back? Are we
Yeah,
actually back? Am I
yes.
gonna disappear? Let's find out.
Insta was
My
trying to
Wi-Fi
play
is
us.
good. My phone is good. It's fully charged. I'm here.
Yeah, maybe it's because of the updates and stuff. Instagram be going crazy.
Okay.
Okay, you were explaining to us what period poverty was.
Okay, so the simplest definition of period poverty is defined as having a lack of access to sanitary products or menstrual hygiene products due to financial constraints.
Hmm.
So it's not just a problem. A lot of times we assume that any form of poverty is limited to what we would consider developing countries. And
Yep.
young menstruators growing up in those countries and those cultures and societies are the ones who would experience this the most.
Yep.
However, something that I actually began learning about 2 years ago was that period poverty affects people from every country, from every stage of in every stage of income or every stage of development. In
Hmm.
the United States, for example, more women than men live in poverty in the United States,
Hmm.
and period products cannot be purchased with food stamps. According to the 2014 Shriver report, there are at least 42 million impoverished women in the United States. When we
Hmm.
take that number into consideration, we also take into account how many millions of that number experience their periods, and from that how many millions more cannot afford period products.
Right.
more often than not, it's been recorded that women, when they can't afford proper hygiene products such as pads, tampons, or cups, they
Hmm.
resort to using cloths, they resort to using socks, they resort to using cardboards, they also resort to just stuffing toilet paper. And these
Yeah.
methods are unhygienic, unsanitary, and can be detrimental to a woman's to a menstruator's health. So
Yeah.
period poverty doesn't only affect um, your hygiene, it can affect your overall quality of life, which is why it's
Hmm.
so important for us to normalize this issue, to understand how staggering the number is of the people that it affects and
Right.
how much we should be doing to try to change it.
So, something when I told you before I seen you do a live and I looked it up because I didn't know what it was. Like I didn't know what was going on, so I just like tried to do some reading. And one of the things that I read, it was a woman who was she was actually in prison or jail. I don't know which one it was. I can't remember. But when I was reading her story, she was saying that they even in jail did not have access to some of these products because there wasn't enough for all the inmates. And exactly what you said, she said that like they were making like tampons out of crude like devices to make it work. So it's really like a wide spreading issue.
Absolutely. And I think it's so important to talk about how public spaces have to properly address period poverty
Hmm.
when it comes to these populations that societies often tend to put on the back burner or often tend not to pay attention to or not place as a priority, such as inmates in women's prisons or homeless people that
Hmm.
menstruate as well.
Hmm.
Oftentimes, for example, people experiencing homelessness have to take extra precautions because they often don't know if there will be a place or space to wash at night, or shelter staff will be generous with pad and tampon distribution. Incarcerated women, who account for 13% of the overall imprisoned population in the US, as you said, suffer from limited and inconsistent access to period products.
Yeah.
In my own personal experience, I have had um, connections to family members who work in federal prisons, and in those prisons and in those facilities, female women inmates often get rationed their tampons and pads, so they're only allowed to purchase a select amount. And then if they want to purchase if they want to receive more, they usually have to purchase it from the commissary, which
Hmm.
charges about, I believe, almost like 50% more. So about, I think it's about $8 to $9 a box in your average Walgreens or grocery store for a box of pads or tampons.
Right.
Oftentimes in commissaries they charge up to $15 a box. And if there isn't enough to go around, oftentimes the price either if there isn't enough to go around, the price either jumps up or there just simply isn't access to it. And it's
Yeah.
absolutely abhorrent that this bodily function, something that's completely natural and out of menstruators' control, has to be something that brings so much hardship already when they're
Right.
experiencing those kinds of lives.
Yeah, and like we talked about before when we had a conversation about it, I was saying like I could go to a doctor's office, a Planned Parenthood, a just pretty much anywhere that has access to condoms, and I can go in there and say like, oh, I need condoms, and they're gonna throw me a bag of them, and they're gonna ask me the questions, nothing for me to sign, nothing like that. But I haven't heard anywhere yet, and maybe there's things happening, but I haven't heard anywhere yet where women can walk into a doctor's office and say like, "Oh, I need pads, I need tampons, I need hygienic items." Okay, okay, I'm gonna write your prescription to Walgreens. I'm gonna take you to Walmart or direct you to your closest pharmacy or whatever. So I just thought that was very weird to think about that. Um, what was your, oh, you were saying that it was like a luxury tax on these items, and
Mhm.
I was just like, what sense does that make? It's the same as like people needing soap or tissue or anything like that. It should be easily accessible, and they should not have to like ultimately fight for the things that they need.
I completely agree. It's inherently, when you compare the experiences of men or people that who do not menstruate compared to those who do, the resources and the access that they have for products and health products that they need for example, your experience with condoms compared to a menstruator who wants to access pads or tampons. They're
Hmm.
very different experiences. Just when we were talking about how period poverty is addressed in public spaces when it comes to homelessness or those living in poverty,
Hmm.
specifically in the US, period products, tampons, and pads, and those hygienic products aren't covered by food stamps. So oftentimes, somebody living in poverty, they and somebody who menstruates doesn't also just have to account for food, for their basic necessities. Their basic necessities also includes period products. And
Right.
those numbers add up. I believe I remember reading a statistic that the average menstruator will spend up to, I believe, $5,000 over period products over a 10-year period. So these numbers add up. And for somebody living in poverty, somebody living on check to check, those numbers add up. And when it's not even afforded to them by the state, when it's not even afforded to them by their government, it's
Hmm.
absolutely absurd that these costs, something that is out of our control, isn't even supplemented to us in any way.
Mm.
There are actually, I believe at the moment, there are 35 states in the United States that still views period products as luxury goods and imposes a sale tax on them. How are pads and tampons a luxury good? How are
Hey,
they?
I
Is
they're
it
they're probably
extra?
looking at it like, yo, if you got the money for it, hey, you can go ahead and get it. We got it with the gold liners. Like, we're gonna hook it up.
If groceries and medication are considered non-negotiable necessities and are tax exempt in most states, why the heck aren't period products?
I don't know. I and
Why is something that's inherently a part of my body not a non-negotiable necessity?
and
And
I and no, you said it right. It should not be negotiable. There should it shouldn't even we shouldn't even have to have this conversation about it. Like, people have been menstruating since humanity began. Like, when they came out with the first ones, they should have been handing them out to anyone who menstruates. Um, but I know somebody's going to be watching this, maybe not today, a year from now, 2 years from now, and they're going to be wanting to know, like, or probably even fact checking us, where can they go to get information?
well, thankfully, period poverty is becoming a much more widespread issue than it was a couple of years ago, and it is garnering a lot more attention in a lot of different media spaces and all over the globe. There are so many amazing organizations that are working to address period poverty and menstrual inequity all over the world. So
Hmm.
usually a simple Google search about period poverty can usually give you a whole list of amazing organizations that are trying to address it. A
Hmm.
couple of my personal favorites. I'm a youth advisory council member for this organization called Period. That is one of the largest youth run nonprofits in the United States that is working to
Hmm.
address period poverty. So they're amazing. So shout out
And I love the name. It's
to them.
simple. You remember
Simple
it.
to the
It's period.
point.
Period.
There is there is Freedom for Girls, Dignity Period, Days for Girls. I believe UNICEF is also doing a lot of period initiatives as well, which is really
Hmm.
amazing. Um, there is those are the four main ones that I can name off the top of my head.
Hmm.
And for a little bit more information about them, Freedom for Girls, it's it provides reproductive and menstrual education to the girls and women in the communities of Mombasa. They also provide menstrual products to 30 schools in the United Kingdom to increase girls' abilities to go to school and participate in extracurricular activities while on their periods. Since oftentimes in most schools, teachers are tasked with supplying menstrual products to their students. So a lot of schools don't automatically provide period products. And if they do, it's not as accessible as it should be. I remember, and most young menstruators and young girls might remember that, being 12, 13 years old, getting your periods for the first time, you had to awkwardly go to the nurse's office and be like, can I get a
Yes.
tampon? And then and it would be awkward. It wouldn't be easy. Sometimes you just want to be able to get something and go because
Hmm.
it's normal. It should be easy. It should be accessible. You shouldn't have to go out of your way to get those products. So Freedom for Girls does a great job of trying to provide menstrual products in all these different schools. So that way they're embarrassed and don't have to feel awkward about getting something that's completely normal.
Yep.
Dignity Period is partners with McKell University to conduct studies about the socioeconomic and cultural impact of periods and to provide education. And they also provide reusable menstrual pads to community members in different countries all over the world. So if you're looking to do a little bit more research and read some articles and learn a little bit more about how periods affect societies and cultures as a whole in a socioeconomic way, Dignity Period is a great organization to check out and to do some
Yeah.
more reading about it.
But I'm
And
not trying to highlight my own ignorance, but like
oh yeah,
I told you when I was researching some of this stuff, like I didn't even know that you get the reusable pads. I had no idea about that, and I was like, or like organic reusable. I was just like, this is a whole nother world I have no idea about. So I was like,
no,
for
for
maybe a week,
sure.
like watching videos or, you know, like you said on Google, looking at different articles and stuff, and it just blew my mind.
Absolutely. And it's great that the attention and the research is becoming so much more widespread, and it's growing so much more in the recent years,
Hmm.
especially when we think about these products and these products that are going effectively like into your body. When you mentioned like organic pads and tampons, um, I don't think a lot of us are used to reading. I mean, I'm sure a lot of us don't read, the backs of any of our food products
Yeah.
and the products that we drink. We oftentimes don't read the labels, and I think the same applies to menstrual hygiene products as well. I remember that when reading the back of, let's say, I don't know, Tampax, those are tampons, that's a brand of
Hmm.
tampons, and just reading the back of the label, I saw about like 15 different chemicals that I couldn't pronounce that go into making these products. And it's oftentimes, it's incredible to read that and realize that we don't really understand, or we don't really go out of our way to see what's being put into our bodies,
Right.
legitimately put into our bodies for hours at a time.
Hmm.
And it's not common knowledge, and there isn't enough education about these simple topics. I wish that just speaking about it in a health class, my professor could have just said, hey, let's talk about periods, let's talk about period products, what's going into your body.
So,
Why is mm-hmm,
even more crazy on that, I remember going through like the health class, and they would get to that portion, and they separate the class. It was like men go over there, or or boys go to one classroom, girls go to the other classroom, and we had no conversation about periods. It was just like, yeah, every couple weeks, women may act a bit funny. They're probably on their period. Now, let's talk about how to use this condom. Like, there was no conversation about menstruation at all. Nothing.
that fell. I It's absolutely ridiculous that we have to separate these issues, and we have to separate sexual health and reproductive health according to gender, which is just another nail in the coffin when it comes to basic equality. If we're separating these issues, if we're not viewing them as issues that all genders, I mean, um, should learn about and should
Hmm.
understand, then that's just furthering the divide even more. And that's why oftentimes I look at period poverty and menstrual equality as a feminist issue. Because if we continue to push it as only a women's only issue, and if we continue to push it as if we continue to limit it to only one specific gender or to only one group of people, then we're just inhibiting ourselves from really attaining equality with this problem.
Hmm.
When I think it's very clear that when we see that divide, when we see menstrual hygiene issues brought to the policy floor in a lot of different um, in legislation, and in legal legislation,
Hmm.
where it's very common for male politicians to be a little bit removed from the subject and not want to address it so much. And because of that discomfort, because of them being a little awkward about it, because it was never normalized for them as they were growing up, then
Hmm.
the issue isn't viewed as a priority. It's very
Yeah,
common knowledge that
I don't
men
see it. It
take up
doesn't
a
affect
majority
me.
of most political spaces anyway. And if we had these male politicians viewing that as a priority and not just regaling it to female politicians or politicians that menstruate, I think we'd be able to get so much more accomplished in
Hmm.
the legislative space. We could have, I personally believe that if this was significantly more normalized, we probably could have done without the luxury tampon in all 50, the luxury tampon tax in all
Yeah,
50 states by now. But instead, we still have 35. 35 out of 50 still consider it a luxury good. That's
more than
ridiculous.
half.
More than half.
Just so I don't know, and I'm not trying to like call her out or nothing like that, but AOC's the like hero in New York. She's pushing forward on the Green New Deal and all that. Has she or any politicians in New York had any conversations about this?
There is a lot more talk, thankfully, among, in my experience in the political spaces, about period poverty and menstrual equity and menstrual justice.
Hmm.
I can't name off the top of my head if AOC has specifically addressed it. I do know that many of my local politicians have done work to have period drives,
Hmm.
and have done work to address it and to talk about menstrual hygiene and menstrual justice. I remember last year, May 28th is menstrual hygiene and justice day. So a lot of them did a
Let me
lot of
write that down. Hold on.
it, so a lot of great local politicians were doing a lot of work in regards to that. I remember New York was one among the first states to address period poverty and to pass legislation into abolishing the tampon tax and providing free menstrual products in schools. And Mayor Bill de Blasio was one of the first outspoken politicians about it. So
Okay.
New York specifically, New York politicians have done a lot to push forward menstrual equity and to do their part to end period poverty all over.
Mm.
So it's been, you know, I always feel gassed that I live in a state that wants to do so much,
Yeah.
that does so much regarding that.
Well,
Sorry, my
now
voice is
now
gone.
I just know I don't have to have no Twitter fights with her. Like, yo, what you doing to your. No, but no, that's really interesting to know. Like, obviously, I'm not in the States right now. I'm in Japan, so I'm not necessarily on the same timeline to, be in that form of the news. Uh, but I try my best to get on there and see what's going on. But obviously, with this being new to me, I didn't know. I'm glad you knew something about it. Um, so my next question that I would have is, what can people do to help?
Well, just for a lot of people that this isn't a common issue for, one of the first and best steps I always think is to become educated and to do your part into normalizing it. So if you're somebody that feels a little bit uncomfortable when it talks about women's hygiene or health in general and bodily functions in general, just try to do your research. Try to watch different videos, and read different articles on the subject. And it's always just important to understand that first and foremost, it's something that's completely normal. And
Yep.
once we can get rid of those stereotypes, get rid of, it being an awkward subject, get rid of stereotypes around periods in general, or oh, she's on her period, that's why she's so crazy. Stupid things like that, stupid
Hmm.
stereotypes, the awkwardness surrounding the subjects, the making it a taboo. We have to get rid of that within ourselves. We have to get rid of
Right.
that within our communities and our society. And that's so important. So it's so important for us to understand that it's a normal function so that we can better combat it when those issues of period poverty and menstrual inequity do arise.
Mm.
Um,
And for
some
the for the for the people who like have no idea about this or don't menstruate at all, once you go and read like the first two, or maybe your first article, it's gonna blow your mind. Um, the stuff that you think that you know, and you're like, oh yeah, that's a normal part of life. I know this happens. No, I think in general, or maybe I could just be speaking for myself. I can just say I was ignorant in this case. We have no idea what's going on, or the struggle that's happening with it, or even that I didn't before today. I didn't even know it was a luxury tax. I have no idea about that. So, in most states, but yeah. So,
and
like I said, you inspired me to go and look up this stuff, and I was just like, I gotta have a conversation about this. Like, I can't just like not say anything about it. It just yeah, it blew my mind.
I wanted to make a quick point out that, it's always important to remember that period poverty isn't limited to just the United States. It happens all over the world. And Nathan, specifically, because I know you're living in Japan,
Hmm.
last month, the central government decided to set aside funds to support women who can't afford to purchase sanitary items.
Mm.
And a couple of municipalities have launched programs to distribute the goods for free. Let me see for you. So I'm pulling up one of the articles that I was going to reference Tokyo's Toshima Ward,
Hmm.
and the Japanese city of Akashi started distributing hygiene goods for free in public places, including
Mm,
schools. So about literally just this year, the Japanese central government has been making the effort to eradicate period poverty within the country. So
yeah,
you're literally living in history right now. I think it's so
yeah,
amazing that it's happening right now as we speak. It literally a month ago they set aside funds for it. So I think that's amazing.
yeah.
Um,
And so in general, I think the experiences I've had in Japan, they do like really well when it comes to like public health things. Like it doesn't just sit on the back burner for 20 years and they're like, yes, this is a public health concern. Like as soon as like something comes up and you make a formal complaint or just bring it up, like they actually take action on it. So good on you, Japan. Y'all out here.
Go Japan. In regards to different ways that you can continue to get involved, besides education, and destigmatizing it within yourself and within your community and your family, there are a lot of really great organizations that are always seeking donations. If you don't know any off the top of your head, you can always visit and donate to your local women's shelter, your local domestic violence shelters.
Hmm.
Oftentimes, if you are male, they women's shelters and domestic violence shelters do not often allow males to come into the facility. It's something I experienced when I was running my own period drive.
Yeah.
I either I had to go by myself. I couldn't bring any men with me, or I had to mail them because they literally did not want anybody knowing where they were, what it was, because it is obviously a very sensitive and it has to
Yes.
be a very safe place for women in those facilities. But you can always donate to homeless shelters. If you donate on the regular, if you ever donate to homeless people in your area, for example, if you see women or if you see, for example, women that are homeless, you can always ask if they need period products. It's something
Hmm.
that's so essential, and just a box of tampons or a box of pads can help so much.
Mm.
So it's very simple and easy ways that you can make a difference in your community. You don't have to donate to a big organization. You don't have to run a giant period drive. You don't have to start your own movement. You can make a difference in
Just where you
small but
are.
key ways. And there's so many different ways that you can. Donating to your $5 to your local organization, going to a homeless shelter, asking if they need period products, going among your family members and just asking, hey, do you guys need anything, to your
Yeah,
friends?
are y'all good?
Exactly. I think that especially during the pandemic, it's become so much more common for us to check on our loved ones, to check on our community members, and to inquire, what do you need, what can I do to help. We've all experienced our struggles in one way or another of the past year, and
Hmm.
period poverty has been one of the struggles that has been highlighted throughout the course of the pandemic. So if there's any time then if there any is there's any time that's better than ever to find a way that you can make a positive difference for people, I think this is one of the issues that you can.
Yeah. And I like how you said like you can just start like where you are in your community and your family,
Hmm.
because I think a lot of people want to make a like a big contribution in the beginning, but
Hmm.
sometimes the biggest contribution that you can make is to the people that are close to you. You know,
Absolutely.
not even the ones you know, but like somebody down the street, next door, just in your community. Because if we all took care of our community, like it will make a bigger impact. So you
They
are
are.
making the big drop in the bucket by taking care of your people.
Absolutely. There's this big misconception, I think, when it comes to nonprofit work, and community work in general, that we have to make a huge splash and we have to go out of our way and reach hundreds of people in the matter of moments to make a difference. And you don't. There are, for example, I live in Brooklyn, and there are community fridges that have been popping up all over the borough, where they
That is a
provide
really
free
cool idea.
groceries and free food products for people to just go and take. I don't know, for people who, in Bay Ridge is one of those communities, for example, where our state senator, Andrew Bernardes, he has
Hmm.
a community fridge right outside of his office where people can donate and people can take. It's literally right there, I believe, on like 75th Street or something.
Hmm.
And it's, it's right there, and you can just go in and take. And so you can go to your local council member, to your local community board, and say, hey, can we set up I remember doing where we set up a big box outside of one of our local food pantries.
Hmm.
Literally had free period products, and we just got all of our donations. We put it in there. We brought it out at certain hours on certain days throughout the week and left it out for a certain amount of hours. And people literally passed by, took a box of pads, and took it,
Yeah,
and it
did what they
helps.
got to do. Yeah,
Yeah, exactly. And that was just in a small community. It didn't have to be for the entire state of New York. It's just helping your community in every way that you can.
yeah, yeah. That is like, man. If no one takes anything from this, just know that educate yourself and take care of the people in your community, and like you will be making a big difference. Like helping, like for me, helping one person is
Hmm.
like you're doing, like you've already gone above and beyond. And if you can continue doing that, one person a day, 7 people a week, it's gonna add up. And before you know it, this so 100 years ago, women's suffrage was uh, up on the legislation board. Who knows what we can get in 100 years of period poverty? Maybe it just won't be in the United States. And I know it's not. You said there's international organizations helping too, but a lot of people look to us for uh, inspiration and seeing what we're doing. And if they see us, being good citizens and helping the people in our community, it will catch on to other people will get involved.
I completely agree. Just being able to just doing the smallest of things, the easiest of things, it does so much. And I really believe that going out of our way, it's not as hard as it is. It's not as
Yeah.
hard as we think. You can make time to help the people in your community. You can make time to help others. And it's, I know it can seem sometimes time consuming. I know sometimes we feel like, oh, we can't change the world. We're just trying to live day to day. I'm just living check to check. But you can. You finding that empathy within yourself and being able to find that willingness to do better for not just yourself, but for others.
Hmm.
It's an empowering feeling. It's a life changing feeling. And I really do implore people to go out of their way at least once,
Yeah.
one time this month, and just ask somebody, what can I do to help? Because I
Yeah.
know we're all capable of doing so.
So, and with that too, for in this aspect of online, what I'm going to do to help, like I said, I'm going to repost this. Please make sure you just hit me with any links that you want me to add into this, and I will put that in there on here, on the YouTube, on Facebook, all my social media. I'm going to put the stuff out. It's going to be out there, and I hope everybody has some time. If you can even read one article or make one donation, ask one person. Again, this is pretty much all we're asking for. You don't have to do anything super crazy, but it's a problem for all of us. It's an issue for everyone. So let's all just do our part in it. And man, I seriously thanks for like having a conversation with me and really schooling me up without even you didn't even know that you were schooling me up, but I was you know uh, on the web doing all my research. So thanks for inspiring me. I know you're doing your part with other things, but you did your part with me because I instantly was like, I need to learn about this. I need to know.
It's my pleasure. I'm happy that you learned something today, and I hope all of you guys that tuned in did as well. It's always a pleasure to be here, and it's always a
Yeah.
pleasure to speak with you, Nathan. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Gabriela. But
Thank you guys. Have a great day, all.
yeah, you too.